everybody. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court for our August 7th, 2020 meeting. This is our work session, and we want to welcome everybody here. Just a piece of housekeeping. I want to apologize to you. I've had knee replacement surgery, and you're going to notice at times I will be here and then I'll be standing up. It is very hard for me to sit in this position for hours on hours, and hopefully it won't be hours on hours today, but if it is, I have to stand up, and I'll be standing off to the side, but I'll be part of the meeting. So if you see me gone, I don't want anybody to think that I left the meeting. I'm just standing up to kind of rest that leg. With that, I apologize to you. And with that being said, let's begin our work session. Let's start with Tommy Russell. Welcome, Tommy, and give us a little brief overview of a yearly event, 127 yard sale. Thank you for being on.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 127 yard sale. It said August the 6th through the 9th. I thought that thing was always over on Saturday night, but evidently it's going through Sunday this year. We have been from one end of the county to the other. I am going to monitor the south end of the county, and because I live on the south end, and Mark Wood, one of my deputies, is going to monitor the north end of the county because he lives there. Good thing, not the good thing, but one of the more pleasant surprises is that the south end does not have very many yard salers or booths set up like they normally do. It appears to me that a lot of those places, booths, have migrated to 151 and 127 in Anderson County to that convention center or whatever that is in that big corner lot there where that McDonald's is. I rode over there and looked the other day, and that thing is pretty full. For the south end, I didn't see anybody set up this morning there nor yesterday. The north end from Owen County coming in, there is a cluster in Swallowfield. There's a cluster at that big vacant lot at the top of the hill coming out of the river bottoms. I don't remember the name of that. And a couple along the side of the road. So I'm going to monitor the south. Like I say, Mark's going to monitor the north end. We have created a 3-flyer packet that we're going to distribute to all the yard salers. That one says maintain social distancing. Is coming from emergency management. This one is the governor's Healthy at Work order, which is what you need to adhere to be able to do that. And this is from the Franklin County Health Department, 120 yard sale safety, and it's got the specific guidelines to it for people to practice. We're going to go through and distribute these flyers today. And like I say, we'll monitor all weekend as new booths set up. We will give them a packet and ask them to adhere to these asks from us to be safe as opposed to sorry. I can tell that the yard sale booths are not as many as there was last year, which is probably a good thing. I know a lot of churches that sell lots or sell booths, they need the money. I'm sure they do. It's a big fundraising event, but we've chosen to be, to practice to be safe as opposed to sorry. And I applaud all of those people that have done that.
Tommy, is there anything in particular that we're asking for the shoppers that are coming in from all over? Are we asking them to do anything in particular?
If you go anytime you go to a yard sale or something like that, everything in there is probably high touch good.
Mm-hmm.
I would wear gloves, or, if you're going to pick it up, buy it. If you're not going to buy it, don't pick it up. If don't handle it, put it back down. But then again, they're all supposed to have hand sanitizer and everything, all of those things out there. So for everybody coming in, they just need to make sure that they continuously sanitize or wash their hands.
Okay. Did we have we asked the vendors, the people that are sponsoring booths, to have hand sanitizer if possible around for people to use?
was asked from the Lieutenant Governor, Wednesday.
Okay.
They were gonna make all of that information available to all of those vendors. But we're gonna make sure that in Franklin County, we go through and do that today.
Okay.
Now, do I foresee, hand sanitizer being for sale?
I didn't ask that, but wouldn't be surprised, yeah. How much is your hand sanitizer?
Yeah, I'm afraid if I put it out there, it's gonna be for sale.
I never thought about that, but there you go. You're probably so. Everything's for sale, right? Whatever the price, it depends on the price, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Tommy about the 127 yard sale? Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. Not really a question, just I would like to remind people just to be safe when traveling. There's a lot of traffic coming and going, especially on, like Tommy said, on the north end of US 127. So just be extra cautious when driving that area over the weekend.
Well said, Squire. Thank you.
I meant to say, Judge, transportation has got a message board out, electronic message board on each end of the county, and it says, no parking on the shoulder, which we fought that fight for a couple of years there. I think it says no parking on the shoulder and wear masks. So they're kind of limited to the verbiage that they can put on there, but there is a message board on each end of the county from KYDOT.
Thank you. Squire Moore, you're next, and then Squire Sebastian.
Not a question. I just wanted to tell Tommy that it's always gone through Sunday.
Oh, it has? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Squire Sebastian?
I wanted to echo the comments of Squire Tracy and just remind folks on the south and the western end of the county where they were paving 127, especially on the southern portion, they haven't got all the lanes marked yet, turn lanes, etc. That has been going on now for a couple of weeks, so people need to take great care if they're traveling out 127 south toward Lawrenceburg. Just a general reminder for folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Tommy, thank you. I know you'll stay on top of it. You and Mark, your crew, we appreciate it. Thank you for the update, and we hope everybody stays safe. Thanks very much.
Just a reminder, I don't know what kind of sales people think they're going to find. COVID's always free, so mask up, even if you're outside.
Yeah. Got it. All right. Next, Mr. Hewitt, can you give us a little 2020 comprehensive plan overview? What's the process? I know that the Planning and Zoning Board hadn't met yet, but when they do, they'll be forming committees and working towards this process. Mr. Hewitt, can you give us a brief overview about the process itself?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Good morning, Court. As you're aware, this community has a joint planning commission. That means it is supported by both the Fiscal Court and the City Commission. It's an 11-member body consisting of 5 appointees from the city, 5 appointees from the county, and 1 appointee from the governor. Whenever a community enacts land use planning, they're required to prepare and adopt a comprehensive plan. And that plan serves as a guide for both public and private actions and then decisions to ensure that the development in the community is done in an appropriate way. Preparation of a comprehensive plan is outlined in KRS Chapter 100 and it's covered in sections .183 through 197. In preparing that plan, KRS 100.191 establishes the research requirements for that document. And there are 4 sections contained within that. The first one refers to an analysis of the past and present population and a forecast of the extent and the character of the future population. So it wants to know if you're growing, if you're receding, in and out migrations. Number 2 is an economic survey and analysis of both public and private business activities. Number 3 is research and analysis of the land and the building usage, transportation, and community facilities. and as well as the location and mapping of agricultural lands within your jurisdiction. And then lastly, it gives you that broad generalization of any other additional information that the community feels is important to be included in the analysis. And all this analysis is used to serve as backup documentation for the other contents of the plan. So the Planning Commission has to prepare and adopt goals and policies that serve as the guide for the preparation of the remaining elements within the document. Those goals and policies are then forwarded to the legislative bodies, Fiscal Court and City Commission. As the legislative bodies, you have the ability to simply adopt what the Planning Commission has recommended, or you can also amend that, add to it, prepare your own analysis, and submit that recommendation back to the Commission for their consideration. Ultimately, the legislative bodies, their action in this process is the adoption of the goals and policies. All other elements within the comprehensive plan and the document as a whole is adopted by the Planning Commission itself. So the elements in the comp plan are to be prepared with a view towards carrying out the statement of the goals and policies. So the goals and policies are the foundation, if you will, of the remaining document. And then within, there are certain time limits that, well, there's exactly 90 days that the legislative bodies are to take action on the goals and objectives once it's been forwarded to the legislative bodies from the Planning Commission. That way we can ensure that the process continues on. That's a very quick general summary of what occurs through the process. Now, all through that, there are public meetings, public hearings, public participation that goes on. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind, put up on the screen that table of contents that I forwarded to you. When preparing the document, the Planning Commission establishes a comprehensive plan update committee, and that's what this community has always done. In the last update, which was 2010, that committee consisted of 52 voting members, and that included both elected officials and citizens throughout the community. From that, subcommittees were established specific to elements within the comprehensive plan. There was a subcommittee for land use. There was a separate subcommittee for transportation, and then there was a separate committee for community facilities. And you can see what you have on the screen now is the table of contents from your 2016 comprehensive plan. So you can see there's an introduction that sort of tells you how you got to where you are in your 2016 plan, then the analysis on the land resources. There's the very important Section 3 goals and policies, and then the land use, transportation, community facilities. And then in this document, we have what's known as the implementation program, which I don't believe was in the earlier documents. This is the matrix for which the Planning Commission and planning staff, this is what we use to help prepare legislation to the legislative bodies to further the goals of the comprehensive plan itself, whether it be amendments to the zoning ordinance, it could be amendments to the subdivision regulations, amendments to development plan regulations, serving or using as the comp plan as the guide to make those amendments. So in the last major rewrite, it took 5 years, okay? So the comp plan has to be reviewed every 5 years, but it doesn't mean that you can't take as much time as you need to prepare the document, all right? So, because the document is a view looking out 20 years in advance. So if it takes you 5 years to adopt a plan, then you get 5 years to work that plan before you have to revisit it. In 2010, that was, I guess, the last major write-up. And then coming out of recession, the Planning Commission decided that there wasn't as much activity that occurred as a result of the recession. So that was So the 2016 was just a readoption of the earlier plan. The biggest change in the earlier plan, which is a large benefit for us nowadays, is the use of the city and county GIS. That allows us to accurately calculate acreages of different land uses between commercial and residential and agricultural. Staff prepared all the maps within the document, whereas before the maps were more like broad brush strokes, if you will. But now we can get things down to a very finite, parcelized level of detail. So in March of this year, before everything shut down, the chairman of the Planning Commission, this was our last true public meeting in City Hall, the chairman of the Planning Commission said at the next meeting, which we thought was going to be April, that he would start to establish the committees to begin the update. The city met with the Planning Commission in July, but other than that, the Planning Commission has not met at all. So the chairman of the Planning Commission, in this case, Mr. Sharon Jackson, will be the one to begin the process to establish the committees, and then we will encourage elected officials to be engaged in that process. When we have public meetings, we'd like to have them in different parts of the community. We like to have them in schools, east and west side of town. We like to go to churches. We like to use our public buildings at all possible. So with this pandemic, I'm not sure how that's going to happen. We're likely to have more virtual type meetings because of the social distancing and occupancy restrictions. So this is a different time, but we're still required by statute to prepare this document, whether it's a readoption, an amendment, or a full rewrite. There was discussion in the March meeting about hiring a consultant to assist the community in this preparation, since it's been a while since we've done another full analysis on it. So I'll stop talking. That's my brief overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Hewitt? Let's see. Squire Sebastian, I think your hand was first.
Thank you, members of the court, and just want to touch base, planning director, and see if someone in the past, how they've gotten involved. Have they reached out to members of the planning commission? Do they need to reach out to the fiscal court and the city commission, expressing their desire to be part of the process, or how does that actually? What is the function of that? Just so we can start getting the word out to people to be mindful to prepare for that.
Thank you for that question. Yes, if someone's interested in participating, I wish they would contact either myself or Mr. Cockley over at the city planning office, because we want this committee and all subcommittees to be a broad spectrum representing individuals and professions within the community. So I look at the list of the last update members, and just a quick summary. We had a dentist on there. We had a developer. We had a realtor. We had someone from the Heritage Council on there. We had a retired state employee. We had a transportation engineer. So the biggest variety of individuals with the largest range of professions and expertise is always a great benefit to this. So if they could contact us, and we'll be reaching out to groups as well. So thank you for that question.
See, Squire Moore, I think you were second, and then we'll move on around. Okay. Squire.
Okay. Robert, has the governor said anything about allowing or postponing this till people can actually get together? Maybe a year or 2 years until this COVID thing's behind us?
No, sir, not that I've heard. And it does, this is very challenging trying to be inclusive of individuals, because these public hearings, we're soliciting input. We had very large meetings last time. I mean, you can imagine a 52-member committee. Just the committee themselves can almost fill a room, and then when you get interested citizens in there, I don't know how we're going to handle this.
So, yeah, it's difficult dealing with the amount of people we have Skyping together. I can imagine 50 people or more.
Oh yeah.
and then the audience too, so,
Yeah.
something we ought to check into, I think.
Yes, sir.
As you said earlier, just to kind of piggyback on what Squire Moore said, it doesn't have to be done in a year. It can take its time in the progress. So maybe, if knock on wood and the good Lord willing and all of us wear masks, maybe a year from now we might be a little bit better off, hopefully. So anyway, I think Squire Tracy was next, Squire Muller.
Thanks, Judge. I was just wondering how we would advertise, how would we go about advertising, recruiting, trying to get people to be interested in this? Would it be advertised on Facebook or on the county webpage, city webpage, things of that nature, paper, so forth?
That's a great idea. That social media is something that was not utilized widely in the last full rewrite. So this will give us a greater opportunity to put the word out that we're asking for volunteers. Of course, the chairman always announces it at the meetings, and that'll be on Cable 10. But yes, we're happy to put that on social media because it's difficult sometimes to find people who are willing to spend, sometimes more than a year working on a project like this. And it's important to, once they volunteer, to stick with it. So if we can get some dedicated individuals, it'd be helpful. So yeah, we'll definitely put the word out.
Robert, I would like to add to that, how do we ensure that we're not getting a lot of people on there that are against any kind of growth and not getting people that are pro-growth? Go advertising and getting people from, we just gotta be careful there, I think. Gotta be a balance.
Well, yes, I understand, since the document appears before the commission as a public hearing, it'd be much like anything else. It'll ultimately be the opinion of the testimony and the decision by the planning commission as to whether this document becomes a neutral growth document, a pro-growth document, or whether growth is pulled back. I mean, we want to balance as much as possible of the committee members, but ultimately the document will be what the community wants it to be.
Squire Booth?
My question was when it was going to start, but a lot of people have already discussed that, so I withdraw my question.
Okay, Squire Muller?
Yeah, hey, Robert, thank you. Obviously, this is a huge topic, especially after what this court just went through. I guess kind of what Squire Booth was saying, but who ultimately is the driving force? I know the county's involved, the city's involved. You said the governor's office has one appointment. Who actually says we're going to do this on this date, no matter what, this is what we're going to do? Who makes that call? Is it one person or is it a combined effort?
Well, ultimately the responsibility is that of the planning commission. So the chairman of the planning commission will establish the framework. And then in the past, what's occurred is after the chairman has announced the subcommittees, then those subcommittees have their own individual chairpersons. And so, but the chairman of the planning commission asks for updates and timelines to ensure that things are progressing. So, so ultimately the chairman of the planning commission serves as the captain of the ship, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Squire, County Attorney?
Yes, Judge, I was going to ask how the composition is determined. 52 is a very precise but kind of random number. Could yield itself to tie votes, stalemates, etc. of that committee. Robert, does when the chair of planning and zoning establishes the matter, is that how it's set, the number of participants, 52, 49, etc.?
From my memory, we landed at 52 because the chairman did not want to deny anyone the opportunity to serve on the committee. So I think that's how we felt on that number.
Okay, that's just a very, very, very precise number, with an even number at that. So I was just curious, and I'm sure the court had the same question. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Robert, thank you for the update, and I'm sure you'll be continuing to give us an update as this process starts to unfold, and most importantly, help us make sure that we get the word out so people can be involved. We appreciate it. Thanks, Robert. The next item on the agenda is authorization for approval of minutes from our regular meeting of July 16th. Are there any questions about our minutes on that, from that meeting? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is authorization to receive a final payment of the 2019 excess fees from our county clerk in the sum of $56,801. County clerk, we love receiving money.
He stepped out.
Who did?
Jeff stepped out.
Jeff stepped out?
Oh, he's right. He's back.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Sorry, Jeff. Didn't see you.
Sorry about that, Judge. I just ran out to answer a customer's question.
No problem.
We are turning over the remainder of 2019 funds. We do this every year. We hold back 10% until all audits are completed. Our total that we're returning at the end of the 2019 is $56,801. That is to accompany a check for $400,000 that we gave you back. I believe we gave it to you at the end of January. That's against our excess fees of $377,400, so we turned in about approximately $80,000 more than we thought we were going to be able to.
That's pretty good in this type of economy. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. Thanks, Jeff. Just a quick question on a different note. Can you give us an update in regards to polling locations, stations?
At this point, Scotty, I'd love to. Squire Tracy, excuse me.
You're fine.
I'd love to, but I'm in a little bit of a waiting pattern. I've sent everybody an email on the locations that I think would be most appropriate, which are in everybody's district. I believe yours is Peaks Mill School. I'm trying to use most of the school locations because they're very noticeable. People in the community know them, and we can use the one call system through the Franklin County School System and through Frankfort Independent to really get the message out, along with some things that we've done in the past. But I can't move forward until I get some guidance from the Secretary of State and the governor on how exactly they want to do elections. What part of it do they want to do and push toward mailing? There's a big push to do a lot more in-person voting. What we will do, which you have a guarantee from me, is I will open in-person, no excuse absentee voting, at least 1 month. So on October the 1st, I will be open down at the old Frankfort Plant Board building where we have the election headquarters. On 2nd Street, we will be open for a month or more for in-person voting. So that's what I know right now. And if everything goes as I planned, I'm hoping to have 7 locations total open, 1 in every magisterial district and then the election headquarters. I sent everybody a location that I think best suits them. And if anybody has any questions about that, I'll be glad. But the schools work for the ADA, they work for knowledge of location, and they work for the ability that all the Franklin County schools, I talked to Mark Cobb yesterday, will definitely be closed down to any teachers or kids on November the 3rd. So therefore, we won't have any crossover people and school people.
Okay, great. I know you and I have talked about Peaks Mill and Franklin County, so I've had several that have asked, so I just wanted to make sure I could pass that along to those individuals that were asking about in-person voting. Thank you so much.
And I'm gonna lean on the magistrates. I will tell you, I'm gonna come back to you all as soon as we can define this plan and put it from pencil into pen. And I'm gonna hope that we can find ways to communicate to every constituent you have in your magisterial district, whether it be your Facebook page, whether it be direct mail, whether it be indirect mail, whatever it works, however you communicate with your constituents, I'm gonna ask you to help me with that. So I'm glad you asked the question. And I look forward to working with every magistrate and finding a way, a plan. Especially, I think me and you talked the last time, maybe even going to the old precincts with buses. If if people had any needs of getting, whether it be church buses or whatever it takes to get some transportation back and forth for the people that were in bigger need of it.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Jeff, thank you for being on this morning. Question, what do you think, and I know this is an open-ended question, but the way you're looking to do it, this November, what do you think it's gonna do to the budget compared to the last presidential election?
I can't really answer that yet. It depends on how much does the state pick up in the mailing costs. If they control the outgoing mail and the incoming mail on these mail-in ballots, and I do 10,000 of them, and that's my numbers. I'll give you the numbers. I'm expecting 10,000 mail ballots, 10,000 early voting in person, and then approximately 7,000 the day of election day. But I actually expect for the overall cost not to go down, but to be very similar to what you've seen in the 2016 election. And I'm hoping maybe it becomes a new model for how we do elections. Because if it is, I think there's ways to save money while doing this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else for our clerk? Jeff, thank you. Thank you for what you've done and given us in excess fees. I remember a year ago we weren't sure what they were going to be, and we've gone through a pandemic, and we've gone through an area where a time when there's been a lot of issues with people working and all of that, and you still brought in more money. So we appreciate what you've done. Thank you so much, and we hope that next year is going to be just as well. Just hopefully, anyway.
Thank you, guys. Have a good meeting.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, the next item on the agenda, Sheriff Choir, I hope you're there. Let's talk about the quarter report.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sheriff.
You know, I hate going after the clerk after he talks about his excess fees, right?
We understand.
All right, well, as long as we're in the law enforcement game, I know you all understand that our excess fees probably won't be there. But we're doing okay on this budget so far. I think everybody got the lines and the budget in their packets. We sent them to Tamber, is that true?
Yes.
Okay. What saved us so far, we're on track, is we had an extra month of tax collections before they rolled over to the clerk, so that helped make up for some of the fees that we were missing from car inspections and civil service papers. And the other big thing was we had to, unfortunately, we laid off 4 of the employees, and that helped our payroll because, you know, with business being down, they weren't needed at this time. The part-time workers, we just cut those back and went full-time. And luckily, they've been getting unemployment. We've been in contact with them, and they're looking forward to coming back maybe later this year. Around November, when we start our tax collections, we're planning on bringing all those employees back. And lastly, hopefully, all these testing sites that we've worked, we've been labeling those employees and some of the PPE we bought. We're hoping to get some of the CARES money back through reimbursement from the judge. And I know Fran has been working with Ann and Susan on that to make sure we get some of that money go through.
All right, any questions for our sheriff? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Sheriff, I just wanted to touch base just to double check, with half of your year behind you. These quarterly receipts right now, would you characterize them as either meeting expectations, exceeding expectations, or are they below expectations at this point? Because I know you've talked about the extra month of tax collections, which has brought that number up. So that could, unfortunately, artificially inflate this one way or another. And then obviously with laying off the staff. Do you have any idea about that?
If, you know, you look at the lines, there's some things that saved us other than those fees. But if you look at the car inspections and the civil papers, they're really, the only thing out of all that is really low is the fees for transporting prisoners, because most things are on Zoom. And we're not moving inmates from state to state and county to county. So that, I believe, is, let's look at it. I think it's down like 80%. So, you know, it's just like any other line item budget. Other things that saved us, like fuel costs. You know, we said, or I said last year, it's a presidential election. Fuel may go up to $3, but who knew what was ahead of us? You know, that was in December. So our fuel, you know, it's staying around $2 a gallon. So that's really helping balance those other things out too. So,
Okay,
but you know, the future hinges on tax collection. November and December is our big month. So if the state decides we're not going to open up tax collection in November, we'll probably be extended another month, because I can't imagine 120 sheriffs being able to balance their budget and losing a whole month. And, you know, if we start in December instead of November, there's no way around it. I mean, we can't even think about not having that month added. So we'll see what happens.
thank you. And I just, have you gotten any kind of guidance along the lines of what you just talked about, from either state officials or anyone else kind of weighing in, as national, federal associations, et cetera, just trying to give us a picture of what we could how we can forecast down the road? And thank you.
You know, it's a lot of gossip going around, like anything, just about, you know, like the elections and tax collections, but we're all pretty much on the same page. If it were extended to, you know, we can't start collecting on our normal cycle, we would get an extra month later. But nobody's told us, yes, that's going to happen, or no, it's not. So we really don't know at this time. We're just going to hope that, you know, the taxing districts all set their new rates, and come November, we open up collections like normal.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other, Squire Tracy?
Thank you, Judge. Sheriff, you touched on reimbursements. Any idea when you and your department, your office will be reimbursed? Has there been a date set? I know you mentioned that Fran was working with Susan. Any idea when that's going to take place? Thank you.
No, I don't know at this time, but I know they've labeled payrolls when we work the drive-through testing clinics. We label all those hours so we know that it's COVID related. And also, you know, hand sanitizer, wipes, things that we normally didn't furnish until this year that weren't budgeted. We've been separating those receipts out so we can try to claim that money with some of the funding the county's got.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes, Sheriff Squire, on a different note, there's been some car break-ins in the community, and I wanted just see if you could give an update to the community and let them know what's been going on.
We had a couple folks come in from Shelby County that were in a kind of like a theft ring over there, and it was around the Bon Air subdivision, Silver Lake, and Country Lane area. I know the city and also the second, third shift deputies made an arrest each. So the city actually made an arrest assisting us over there, and we appreciate their help. And we also made an arrest, and I believe that's calmed it down as far as I know. But we experienced 15, I believe, in the county's vehicles broke in. And like we always say, please lock your car and take your valuables out. If you don't want to lock your car, don't leave laptops, phones, guns, your garage door remotes, all those things. If you're not going to lock your vehicle, at least take those out. But even if you do lock your car, don't leave those things in plain sight, because it's just an attraction. We've seen all the Ring doorbell cameras posted on Facebook. You can see people come around, look in your car, and sometimes they'll move on. And the reason they do is because they don't see anything they want. And if your car is unlocked, of course, they're going to open it up and go through it, take out your loose change and stuff. So, you know, if you can, park in your driveway and not on the street, and lock the vehicles. So we'll continue to work with the residents, and we'll do our part in making those arrests. And hopefully it's calmed down. And like always, just call us if you see something that's suspicious. It probably is. So please call, and we'll do our best to come out and find out what's going on.
Okay, Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. I had something along the same line. I've had some residents from South Frankfurt reach out to me, yesterday afternoon and last evening, to report that there have been some unsolicited door-to-door solicitations going on, where individuals could potentially be representing themselves as Frankfurt Plant Board employees. So I reached out to the sheriff last night to make him aware, just to see if he had also heard about that, and certainly made some staff at the plant board aware of that. So it may not be isolated just to South Frankfurt, so individuals should be aware that people are going around door to door, and that's something that should not be happening anyway in regard to COVID protocols. So it's just very important that our residents stay vigilant to people who are coming around knocking door to door for saying that they're there to provide a service.
Okay. Sheriff, you want to say anything on that? I guess the city police have been notified too then, right?
Yes, I was in contact with them last night. It was posted to the South Frankfurt Neighborhood Association, some of the details. I know Squire Sebastian also shared it on her page. Just, right now is a bad time to be going door to door and asking people to buy or sign up or whatever for things. The best thing you can do as a resident is probably not answer, No, nobody can make you answer your door. So if you just ignore them, they'll go on to the next person.
Okay. Are there any other? Sorry?
Judge, it's Tom Russell.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Tom.
Just for everybody's information, the door-to-door mandate was lifted on the 29th of July. Now, misrepresentation going door-to-door is a whole different item. It would fall under law enforcement, but door-to-door solicitation is allowed, and I agree with the sheriff. I don't know why anybody would answer the door, to be honest with you, and you shouldn't. But it did not get rescinded under this last set of guidance that the governor issued. I don't believe. I've had an email this morning, and I'm checking it right now. But door-to-door was rescinded the 29th of July, I believe.
Okay. Any other questions? Sheriff, we've got another item. Mr. Parsons is retiring. So let's. You got a firearm purchase?
Yes, sir. I first want to say I'm sure the court, like myself, would love to thank him in person for his over 20 years of service to our community. Half of that was at Frankfurt Police, and I believe the last 8 or 9 years was at the sheriff's office. So unfortunately, we're not in person, and I believe Russ is on vacation visiting his daughter in Colorado. But we all want to say thank you for your service to our community.
I'll ditto that. I know Russ is a very, very conscientious, diligent employee, or has been for the county, especially at the Judicial Center, and all that he's done. And we're very honored that he's retired under us, and that he will. We wish him all the best in his retirement. Hope that he has many great years ahead of him to enjoy life. Thanks.
Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir. So you want this firearm as a surplus, so which is kind of a standard procedure for your retirees?
Yes, and I might add that your deputy judge, Tamber, did a really good job helping coordinate this. She pointed out a few things, such as make sure we have his letter saying, yes, I'm retiring, because there's been some guns in the past about those folks may or may not have retired. But yes, he is retiring, and we got fair market value, and I have those appraisals, and there'll be a cashier's check issued back to the sheriff's office for that fee, so it can go back in the fees account, which is where it was purchased from. And also, we have a date set to go to a local gun shop and have that gun transferred to Mr. Persons and out of Franklin County Sheriff's Office name.
Well, it's an honor to do that. Sorry about the process. It's not an easy process, but at least we can get it back to him. And I applaud you for making sure that he gets his firearm.
Yeah, and thank you to Ms. Tamber for working with me. We made sure that we did it right, and also our county attorney, Rick Sparks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Sheriff, thank you very much. You have a good day, stay safe, and thanks all to your deputies and staff for the great job they're doing in our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay?
Joe Rucker said hi, Chris. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is authorization to approve a resolution acknowledging and approving the assumption and sale of Energize Kentucky LLC with the Franklin County EPAD Program Administrator. Mr. Sparks, we have two guests, Counselor Hudson and Counselor Jones. And if you would, you start off and then we'll let them come on and talk. Thank you, Mr. Sparks.
Thank you, Judge. Court, this is a resolution formally authorizing a sale as part of the transfer of assets of Energize Kentucky. Previously, the court had selected an EPAD administrator for individuals who want to do and participate in the EPAD program, which allows some energy credits, tax credits, et cetera. That company has been sold. There's a provision in our original agreement when we created the Energy Project Assessment District in March of 2019 that prohibited an involuntary assignment of the program. But in this situation where it's a sale and transfer of ownership, including all assets, liabilities, et cetera, that was not prohibited but requires court action. So here we are to formalize one entity to the other, same terms as we currently have, to allow Energize Kentucky to take over from the Midwest Paste, et cetera. I think I've got the parties all correct. Basically just a transfer, not an assignment, which would not have been permitted. You can't just assign it one way or the other. Basically it just allows us to continue with the EPAD program with a different name and a different ownership going forward, but does require court approval. So here we are.
Okay, do you, Mrs. Hudson, or Counselor Hudson, would you like to comment?
Sure, I'll speak to it a little bit. Essentially, I think Rick did a great job of summarizing. You all have an EPAD district, very commonplace in Kentucky. There's about 16 EPAD districts throughout Kentucky. There's a program, a third-party program administrator for your EPAD. It's Energize Kentucky, also very common in Kentucky. Energize Kentucky was formerly owned by the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance. They went out of business. They're dissolving their business operations effective July 1st, 2020. As part of that, there was an acquisition or an assumption of Energize Kentucky by Midwest Paste Services LLC, which is just another party, third-party administrator. So Midwest Paste Services came in, assumed Energize Kentucky LLC, and operationally, not much will happen with everything with Energize Kentucky. The name will remain the same. Obligations to Franklin County EPAD will remain the same. The hang-up was originally in our contract with Franklin County. There was a non-assignment clause. So we spoke to Mr. Sparks. It essentially gave Franklin County an out to say, we don't want to continue with this program administration agreement. We talked about it. I think everyone's been very satisfied. Franklin County doesn't pay anything out of pocket to maintain this administration agreement. It's something that happens on the back end of an energy project. So we drafted this resolution just acknowledging the assumption of Energize Kentucky to new ownership. And hopefully I've done an okay job of summarizing the series of events. So does anybody have any questions?
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. Has there been any EPAD projects in Franklin County within the last year or so, or, you know?
Actually, Ms. Hudson, I was going to let Chris Jones talk about that, if that's okay. I thought that would be his role and to speak about the,
Yeah,
what's
and
that?
Chris can introduce himself here a little bit. Chris, take it away and I'll.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. So the answer to your question is there has not been a participant in Franklin County as of yet. I would just say that PACE financing is still relatively unknown in the state. And so we just collectively need to kind of advertise that it is an option to the private property owners in the county. So hopefully sooner rather than later it will start being used.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. One other question. How are you marketing this to people? I mean, is there information out there on a website or pamphlets, or how would we get the word out?
Yeah, so all the property owners or anyone of interest can go to the website. So it's kypace.org, and that has all the information with regards to the forms that would need to be filled out, contact information. I'm really kind of the point of contact of anyone that would like to, discuss PACE financing, whether it be the property owner or contractors who would like to know about it, or economic development entities. I know, previously Terry Bradshaw had, known about PACE and discussed it as well. So, the more that kind of, know about PACE and can promote it within the economic development kind of arenas certainly is helpful, as we've seen kind of in other locations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Squire Sebastian, before I get to you, Mr. Jones, I think this might be an apropos time to, briefly as possible, explain the program again, since we've gone through a different climate with businesses and stuff. So maybe even might be more apropos now. So would you mind just in brief summary explain the program?
Sure, yes. So it is for private property owners. And so if a property owner, business owner wants to, for example, replace their heating and cooling systems, they can use PACE financing to fund those improvements, and the repayment goes on their property tax bill as a special assessment. And so, this is always a different kind of thinking when we talk with local government officials about it, because, local government officials, as you know, special assessment has generally been for things like sidewalk improvements, street improvements, downtown business districts, where you have dozens, if not hundreds, of property owners being assessed. This is simply a single property owner requesting a special assessment to pay for those energy efficiency related improvements. It also can be renewable energy improvements like solar. Also, the Kentucky EPAD statute allows water conservation. So if there were water efficiency, water reduction uses as well, that's also eligible.
Okay.
I don't mind to cut you off here, Chris. I just wanted to make a note that ironically, we just did a presentation for KLC on this type of financing, what it is and who it's for in Kentucky. That webinar, which was Tuesday, was it Tuesday, is recorded. So if you all are open to it, I can also forward the recording of that webinar to you guys to help educate a little more about what the program is and what it can do for your community.
Okay, thank you. Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Jones, one other question, and it's starting to come back to me from last year. Excuse me, when we discussed this, is there minimum amounts for projects that you all handle? I remember that being kind of a topic last year.
Yeah, so there's no statutory minimum requirements, but the market really has set roughly $150,000 as a minimum, just as a guideline.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. This would be for County Attorney Sparks. On page 2 of this resolution, item number 4, If you look to the second line, it says the county acknowledges and approves of the assumption and sale of Energized Kentucky. So does that mean by signing this resolution, we need to do this to approve the sale of the company? I'm just confused and confounded a little bit about the wording of the sale being in there.
No, ma'am, that language is required to validate the approval of the contract contingent on the sale. It's gonna get sold one way or the other.
Exactly.
That is the asset. But to get around and get over the hurdle of the non-assignment clause, it had to reflect that that was the purpose of the transfer. It wasn't an assignment, one party to the other. It was actually sale of the program to the existing Energized Kentucky asset sale.
Okay, so the way this is worded, it does not predicate the sale of this entity to one entity based on Franklin County, right? I just want that to be clear to everybody because it's not clear how it's worded.
Yes, ma'am, it's very clear how it's worded, but the resolution is to approve the transfer of assets. I think it is. We drafted it. We reviewed it. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, got you. Everybody good? Thank you. All right. If there are no other questions, Mr. Jones and Ms. Hudson, we will be voting on this in just a few minutes or a little bit after we finish up the agenda, the voting session, and we can get back with you if you need to go, and if not, hang with us and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is authorization to renew a lease agreement with Buffalo Trace Properties, LLC for the livestock compost facility. Miss Brittany, please tell us you haven't had the baby since you were on an hour ago.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, good. All right. That's great. That's great. Good to hear from you. You want to go over this with us?
Sure. So this is just a yearly agreement that we do with Buffalo Trace. It doesn't renew automatically, so that's why we're putting this through court. The lease period is 1 year. If accepted, the new lease begins September 17th. There are no changes from the previous agreement other than the dates that it is good for. Since we've been operating the livestock compost program, we've saved about $56,000 in landfill tipping fees and have processed a total of close to 3,000 animals at this point. So let's see, and the county's received about $215,000 to date for use at the compost pad through state grant programs. So if we can approve this to continue this program, I think it'd be a great service for Franklin County.
I agree with you on that, and thank you, Brittany, for bringing that to us. Are there any questions? Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Brittany. No questions. I just want to give a shout out to Buffalo Trace for being a great partner in this endeavor with us. It's pretty huge for our community, so I just wanted to publicly say thank you.
Squire Tracy?
Thanks, Judge. Just one quick question. Is the cost savings in addition to the Conservation District paying full cost for the dead animal removal?
So this cost savings is just the base rate for what the tipping fees would have been at the landfill. So I don't believe this actually includes the money that the county works with the Conservation District for now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Squire Sebastian?
Yes, and this would go to, I guess, the county attorney. On item 28, waiver of right to a jury trial, is it just common practice for Franklin County to sign agreements and have that kind of clause in it? Just
No,
wonder.
ma'am. Not at all. Not at all. I hate that clause. I hated it when we negotiated it with Sazerac and Buffalo Trace. Opposed it at every opportunity. It's modern litigation seems to favor arbitration and mediation. Sometimes the golden rule applies and the gold is there, they control it. That was their clause out of New Orleans, etc. And as Brittany would note, and I did want to point this out, instead of it just a one-page renewal and a blessing, she's attached it as a subsequent contract. So again, Squires, you're noting, you've got the whole thing right in front of you, and that is the exact same contract that we negotiated for years now, a couple years in the past. So you've got access to the whole thing. It is not a change, and it does not reflect any new terms negotiated, but that was one that they use as their requirement. Frankly, under our local rules, about 9 times out of 10, you're going mediation arbitration anyway. So it wasn't worth fighting for at the time, and that was the term that they placed on us.
Okay, so where do you stand on it? Because I just found that to be atypical.
It is very atypical. Yes, it was pointed out the last time. It was atypical and addressed, et cetera, and that was the terms, and that's where we are. The other term that was also a question that you noted, one of the things atypical, frequently we have agreements where they automatically extend unless terminated with some termination provisions. This was 1 year at a time because Buffalo Trace's business model wanted to have that kind of flexibility. So that's why it requires court action. Yes, ma'am.
Right, and should their business model change, I think it gives us the way I recall reading this, 90 days to kind of transition. Well, I'm hopeful we have a plan B in our hip pocket, Brittany.
Both parties, there is an internal termination provision time frame, or it terminates on the annual date if not renewed.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Thank you, Brittany. All the best to you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay. The next item is authorization to approve appointment of Franklin to the Franklin County Planning Commission Board, Mr. Paul Looney. Any questions? Squire Booth?
It's not a question, I just want to point out that he used the application form to be on a board or commission, and I think that is a step in the right direction.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. No, I really, just one question. How many other people applied, just out of curiosity?
Okay, there have been 4 people that have applied under the time guidelines and 1 additional after the time guidelines. So total of 5, counting Mr. Looney.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Squire Tracy?
Yeah, Judge, I was asked the same question. Obviously, I mean, great background, professional background. What set him apart from the other 4? In your eyes, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Well, as you just said, his background is extremely good, and all of us, I know you especially, and Squire Blackburn and myself have worked with him extensively and know him personally, and he actually was interested 3 weeks ago and did not get his information in until after it was through, we'd already moved forward. So he asked if he could be considered, and I thought that his background was excellent for what we need. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Squire Sebastian.
Yes, thank you, Judge. I just want to say that sounds like the first district is head and shoulders in trying to make application for these boards, and so I certainly appreciate that. I keep beating the drum and keep beating the bushes for candidates, so I'm happy to see them coming in from our lively first district. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. The next item, Miss Susan, we're gonna bring you up for the fourth quarter, the financial statement and the treasurer's report, and maybe payment of bills. So Susan, you're gonna be on for 3 or 4 agenda items, if you would. Welcome, Susan. Hope you're doing well with your physical therapy.
Thank you, Judge, and I hope you are as well. Good morning, Court.
Thank you.
The fourth quarter financial report has been submitted to the state. It does tie in directly with our year-end financial statement. Our year-end financial statement was published in the State Journal on Tuesday, I believe, for the public and for the public's review. And any comment or questions from the court, I'll be happy to take, but I'll just in general, as we had predicted and commented along the way, that we would end the year in the black. So we do have a carry forward, basically, of excess of receipts over expenditures for fiscal year 20 of about $1.4 million. And as I've also pointed out along the way, there were some unfulfilled obligations during that time, which contributed to that excess. And we will be meeting many of those in the current fiscal year. So it's good to have that excess cash available to, on a rolling basis. But I did send out some information to the court for clarification, hopefully. Again, a lot of these are just accounting structures and accounting terms where we have multiple funds, but they all come together to form fiscal court on a consolidated basis, and we will be moving forward with our audit based on this report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
So Susan, I had one. On the DLG report, Madam Treasurer, there's a line item for fire that demonstrates a $121,000 encumbrance. Can you tell us a little bit about why the funds are encumbered there?
Yes.
That is on the truck?
Yes, that is the insurance. That was the insurance repair on the truck, and it's
Okay.
a large item, so that's why it's specifically stated.
All right, I figured as such, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much.
Yes, Squire. The judge is away, so I'll call on Squire Tracy.
Thank you, Susan. Just one quick question. You touched on that we ended in the black. How much of last year's budget was not spent in regards to the judge basically putting a spending freeze on? How much of that money was not spent?
I don't have a specific analysis to report to you now on that number. I'd be happy to compile that specific number for you. We, by department or in whatever shape or form that you're interested in.
Yeah, I'd just like to see like total. I think you said we were, 1.3 in the black. I'd like to see how much of the actual budgeted monies was not spent due to the freeze, and how much that would be into that 1.3 as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Squire Blackburn? I can't hear you, Squire.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, out of that 1.4 million in surplus, would how much, if you took away the unfunded obligations, what would that number look like?
Took away the unfunded obligations.
You said we had some unfunded obligations that we didn't pay that
Well,
helped.
I didn't mean unfunded. We had some obligations that a big one in particular is the Farmdale sewer project. That's most notably the project that didn't advance the way, within the a single fiscal year, and that's, the county is obligated to match, and I think we've got about $350,000 or so to do on that project from county funds. So that's a big one, and that's a primary example of a big project that didn't take place. Of course, the fulfillment of the insurance repair on the fire truck, that's a big one. We didn't do some significant paving that had been planned for the county. We postponed that infrastructure investment, so that would account for a large portion of that excess as well.
Yes, I just wanted to see that if there was if we would have been in the red if we had fulfilled all the things that we had budgeted.
That's a good question, and the answer to that might be a little bit more involved, because we did have some significant revenue overages by line item, if you recall. So when you look at the revenue report for the fiscal year end, and as you recall, we did amend in monies related to those, to exceeding our anticipated revenue budgets. So that would have to be quantified, and I think off the top of my head, because of how strong our payroll was and net profits were and insurance premium, those were the items that we amended in, that we possibly could have offset the amount that was budgeted from surplus in the 2020 budget, but I don't know for sure, Squire, specifically.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Yes, sir.
All right, Susan, next.
So we've covered the fourth quarter, which is also the fiscal year end, and now we're in present day, let's hope. And moving forward with present day, you should have received an expense report connected to court bills in your packet. As far as any highlights, the only highlight comment I would make on the revenue side is we did receive our initial draw on the CARES money, and that money is reflected as a federal grant receipt in the federal fund. It was close to I can't remember, 750,000, something to that tune on the federal receipts. And that's probably the most significant activity item on the revenue side. The expenditure side, as you all know, and we pay a lot of really high dollar amounts up front for insurance, so we could take a big hit in our first quarter with expenditures for our liability insurance, our workers' comp insurance, and those insurance payments. They can approach, I think, maybe $800,000 overall. So it's pretty significant dollars going out in the first quarter. Squire Sebastian.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Susan. I'm looking at the expense report. On page 2 of that document, under planning and zoning, there's about a 48% expenditure already, less than 40 days in, for some office equipment. Do we know if that was something that was to replace maybe an existing piece of equipment that had stopped working, or was it an anomaly? Was it just trying to get my arms around, because there are a few things like that in here that, under 40 days in, and we've expended, a third or.
I think Robert is online and he can answer specifically what that is. I believe that's a recurring expense for their, one of their software programs.
Is it a software license?
I believe it is a recurring software license, I believe, off the top of my head.
Robert Hewitt, can you answer that?
I don't have that expense report in front of me. There should be a description in the ledger, I believe. It say?
Tamara's looking it up.
So there's that, and then, you know, flipping on over on page 3 in the community infrastructure, you know, there's a 57% expenditure in just that one line item. Certainly, I'm assuming down under building maintenance and the judicial center, the custodial supplies have probably gone up. I don't know if those will ultimately get rolled over maybe to COVID, but that community infrastructure.
Yes,
sorry.
Squire, it's a software permit for planning and zoning, an annual software permit, or permit
It's
software
like
licensing.
License
Yes,
agreement, okay.
yes, and that's classified in that category of equipment, and it has been there, classified that historically. And then community infrastructure, let's see.
Yeah, if you'll just flip over, it is the second item on page 3 at the top of the page.
Yeah, I'm looking that up.
And I just wasn't sure about that because, you know, we're just barely scratching the surface of FY '21. And so sometimes there are things like the annual renewal of a software license, just like you've done planning and zoning.
Yes, ma'am, that is a street light at US 60 and Bridgeport Road. For
So
the
that,
community
like,
infrastructure.
okay, so that's a new light, correct? And that
Yes.
has taken
And
almost
that
60% of the budget, okay.
Yes, and that may have been agreed to by the fiscal court in the last fiscal year, but due to timing of installation, gets pushed out to be paid in this fiscal year, which is pretty common for the way activities work when you have obligations at the year end. Squire
Okay.
Muller?
Thanks.
Square Muller?
Yes.
Hey, thanks Susan for being with us. Question, do you know to date what we've used money-wise out of the CARES money?
And, Susan, would that be you or Ann, or both of you?
Well, I think our total appropriation was 1.7 million and we received about 800,000. We've received, let me say it that way. So we're doing it, we're obligating it as we're making application. And I say it that way. So whatever 8 million is of 1.7, so it's approaching 50% along with the other expenses. But Ann will probably expound on this, but we're also looking at FEMA money. So where we're obligating or distributing the expenses from the virus with the various categories for reimbursement. That there was also a CESF or something like that early on at 58,000 that we've, I think, spent maybe 60% of that. So there's a distribution there, but that reimbursement, that initial reimbursement of 800,000 out of the 1.7, that would be an answer to your question, Squire, at this point.
Thank you.
Squire Tracy?
Is there a list available of the expenses in regards to the CARES Act money that's been spent out so far?
I thought we'd sent that out. I thought I'd seen that. I don't know.
Yes, and it was primarily related to the category for payroll.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Squire Blackburn, do you have a question?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Miss Susan, the next one, the treasurer's report.
I believe I've kind of wrapped that all
I
in
think you
together,
have, yeah.
unless there's any specific questions regarding activities.
Okay, we kind of touched on the next one, payment of bills. Are there any questions on the payment of bills? Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Susan, just a quick question. I noticed there's a bill in here for HMB for Farmville sanitation for $78.75. I was just curious. I didn't think we were doing anything with Farmville, and it just kind of caught me off guard.
We have an EPA agreement that's part of the project, and the HMB engineering is a service that's contracted directly with Farmdale Sanitation, but we use the federal money along with our match, our portion of our match, to pay that bill directly. So it's a combination of federal money and county money. Again, I think the county's total obligation was around $450,000, but we've spent about $100,000 of that county money. So that's reflective of the Farmdale Sanitation Project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Susan? Seeing none, Susan, thank you. Appreciate your report and appreciate your hard, excellent work to make sure that we're financially in shape to the best we can be here in the county. Thank you so much for your good work.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is other business, and I'm going to start off with some great news. Squire Sebastian, if you'll just hold on, let me finish, and then I'll get with you in just a second. Okay. At our last court meeting, we met with made a decision with Compass about refinancing the bonds, and Compass met 2 days ago with I guess the brokers of the bonds, and they ended up it was anticipated that we would receive around $50,000. There'd be about a $500,000 savings with the refinancing of the bonds. Well, we virtually doubled that thanks to Compass, R.J. Palmer, and their work. There's going to be close to $1 million savings, which means that we get 10% of that. So we're going to get close to double the $50,000, almost $100,000 in extra monies coming back into the fiscal court. So I'm very, very pleased, and I thanked R.J. Palmer and Compass Group for what they did to help secure more money for us. So that's on the good news. Are there any other business? Squire Sebastian.
Yes, thank you, Judge. I just wanted to follow up on the tremendous idea that Squire Tracy had about the possible drive-in movie at Lakeview Park, and see the results that came into fiscal court. I think probably many of the magistrates have heard individually from people, but I think there was some kind of poll that was put out on the fiscal court webpage, and none of us have heard anything to my knowledge, so I just wanted to follow up with that. And then I have one other item after we follow up with that. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew Tippett, do you have the results of that poll?
Well, I can try to see if I can pull something up real quick. I don't know if I have that in front of me.
Andrew, why don't we give you a second do you need any more time to look that up, and then we'll go on with
I don't know that I can get you the whole stuff right now. I know that it was overwhelmingly positive, the results, and for many people it appeared that a nominal fee would not impact their decision to attend. So I can just tell you that right off the top of my head that most people that responded to the poll were interested.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. I think you have a court of individuals who are trying to be creative and find solutions for our families in a cost savings manner. And I've recently seen a pop-up drive-in occur in Simpsonville. So certainly I think Squire Tracy had a tremendous idea ahead of the pack. It's just in the execution of how it's going to be done, potentially here in Franklin County. My second question is one for the fire chief. I just wanted to, and I think he's on, or I saw him on earlier, just wanted to find out about hydrant flushing within the Farmdale Water District, to see if that was, number one, underway. Number two, to see what the percentage of completion has been thus far, if it is underway. And number three, the anticipated completion date of that. And if, again, Squire Booth and I will get follow-up information on that. Thank you.
The pilot testing has been underway for some period of time. As far as the percentages go of completion, I do not have that information, but I can get it for you. And we project to meet our contractual duties as far as the completion.
Great, really appreciate that, Chief Hutchinson, and look forward to hearing a little bit more about that from you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your work out there.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Two things. I guess, kind of piggybacking on Squire Sebastian, could we maybe go ahead and get a park meeting scheduled sooner than later so we can potentially look at the movie night thing for this fall? That's my first part. Second question would be, could we potentially get a strategic planning meeting? I've been having a lot of people contact me. You know, we've been talking about growth and different things in our community, how we can make things better for our existing people that live here, and everything keeps going back to Lakeview Park. You know, I've had a lot of people contact me about building a performing arts center or an auditorium, and I know we're in a pandemic right now, but looking long term, you know, the planning starts super early. So I was wondering if that's something we could maybe kind of get scheduled and go from there.
What we were doing was we were wanting to get the tax rates in and have a finance committee meeting initially to get to approve those, and it should be coming in the near future. And so we could see where our revenue, what that was going to be, and then have strategic planning after finance. So, we'll get that going when we get a good handle of where we are. So.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, we will get parks coming up real soon. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. How about Constitutional Offices Department Head reports? Mr. Hewitt, do you have something? I believe you have something to discuss with us about.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have two items to advise the court on. First is that we have received word from the AG's office that our expanded jurisdiction has been approved. So we are set to go there for the large building projects utilizing our chief building official. So great news there. That's an opportunity to speed up the process and generate revenue and make us more of a one-stop shop for the developers. So that's exciting. We do have a project that will be coming in very shortly. They were sort of waiting on that jurisdictional transfer, and that developer's looking forward to it. So thank you all for your support on that. Secondly, I wanted to advise the court that our electrical inspector, Michael Flatham, has resigned, so we currently have an open position there. We are taking this opportunity to meet with the city and discuss the contract that we currently have with them to see if we can make it a more equitable agreement that could still serve the community but help offset the cost now that we have, I believe, 2 years under our belt. So we're going to be pulling some data together to help justify any renegotiations that may occur. So that's all that I have, Judge. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Robert. Hey, you said you all are going to have some data, so I'm assuming that the data would consist of how many inspections he did with the city and how many he did with the county and things like that. Is that the data you're referring to?
Yes, I'll be pulling that as well as documenting fixed costs. I think that's very important. That's something that we did not have before. I want to look at vehicle mileage, any maintenance that occurred, the cost for providing inspection reports and stickers and any equipment, all those hard cost things that it takes to perform that service. I want to pull all that together now and then provide the ratio of inspections and estimate of time spent, things of that nature. So I'm going to try to really get all that pulled together and present that case. So yes, you're correct.
Great. And then one other thing, Robert, just while I have you, and I appreciate that. Where are we at with the fees? You know, I know we had talked with Susan And, I think the court members about looking at our fees and bringing things up to par. Where are we at with that?
So on the building side, if you recall, as part of the expanded jurisdiction, we went ahead and adopted the state fees in the state building code. So that is great, and I appreciate your support on that. And so that helps to capture inspections that my inspector was performing in which we did not have a fee schedule for. So that's great there. On the electric side, I've been in discussions with the city and also with the judge about either updating the fees or at a minimum aligning those with the city or the city aligning with us. I think it's important that we just have hopefully a single fee structure between both jurisdictions. It just makes it easier for the electricians and everyone involved. It has been 20 years since electrical fees have been revised, if you will. So I look forward to that opportunity to make a change there if at all possible.
All right, thank you very much.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Mr. Planning Director, just want to see if anything stuck out in Mr. Flooding's exit interview that we can learn from and as we move forward with this position.
I would like to ask the Human Resources Director to answer that question.
Sure.
Betty Jo, are you on?
I'm on, yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Basically, the individual asked if the court would be more knowledgeable on the process of that position. I think he was under the impression that the court didn't have the full knowledge of his position. So that's one reason we're reaching out. Robert and Eric Copley from the city is meeting and making sure that everybody's on the same page and understand exactly what his position is, just like versus the city inspections and county inspections. And I will say that due to some of the conversations that happened during the budget process, he was under the impression that he could lose his job. So he was, that was one of the reasons why he sought another employment. That wasn't all of it, by the way. There was a pretty big pay increase that he received taking this other position. So there was a lot of different circumstances with him leaving the county. He appreciates all the conversations, but I think he was taken back a little bit live on some of the conversations that happened during the budget. So he just thought for himself, it's time to move on. So, and again, he said that, he left on great terms, and maybe in the future, when our other electrical inspector retires, he's got about a year left. So he said that we really need to be looking at filling that position. He was worried about not filling that position just because there's a lot, we have a lack in electrical inspectors, unfortunately. So it's kind of really hard to find those. So he just kind of asked us to, think about that, think about the future, because a year and a half from now goes by pretty quick. So we actually had a meeting with the city, Keith Parker and Eric Copley, Deputy Judge, and Robert Hewlett, on how we can look forward to future on that position. And so that's what Robert and Eric Copley is going to be working on going forward, so we can make sure what we want before we advertise. And that's one reason I'm holding off on the advertisement too. We want to make sure we have everything clear and in writing before we advertise that position. So hopefully we'll be getting that information in the next week or two, so we can get that advertised as soon as possible, because right now we've got one electrical inspector doing both of those. So hopefully we can get that done in the next week or two, so we can get that advertised, so we can get someone started in the next few months.
Betty also gave some suggestions, and Robert was spot on one of them, and that's to equalize the fees between the city and the county. That was one that he gave as a suggestion that we look into and make sure that we get going for the new person coming in. Wasn't that one of them? And then there was a couple others too.
Yes, it was, Judge. He said if we could adopt the city fees, that would actually help. And that I've shared this with Robert and yourself about maybe using iWorks a little bit more in the future, because technology is here. And I know Robert's been working with the staff on that. That would really help with the iWorks part. Some really good suggestions for the exit interview, and we are working on those.
Okay. Anything else? Tommy Russell, do you have an update that you want to present to us on COVID?
Yes, sir. Just a quick overview, kind of where we stand in the county. The governor put the mask mandate out for another 30 days yesterday. We're still at personally at groups of 10 or less. Events and venues can be groups of 50 if it's done correctly. But I just want to say, with Miss Mattingly in public health, looking at the addresses that I receive daily from them, we had a pretty good outbreak in one of our long-term care facilities. Looks like maybe that is under control, but the concerning thing to me is the number of different addresses that I've got on my latest list. Total since this thing has begun, we're up to 308 cases as of yesterday. Most of those have recovered. We did have another death, which is our condolences go out to the family, but the scary thing for me is the number of different addresses that are on my list, which tells me this is not confined to this community-wide, and everybody needs to remember that. Right now is a difficult time for us and for everybody. You just need to wear a mask and maintain the social distancing. And we just need to take that reminder. Judge, I know you pushed it as well as all of our elected officials have, but I feel like right now the cases in Franklin County are going up a little bit, and we just need to try to do everything we can to get this back under control so we can go back to whatever the new normal is going to be. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Tommy, for that. Any questions for Tommy before we move on? Okay, are there any other department heads or constitutional officers that want to speak? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move forward to our voting session. And clerk, will you... Okay, this is the Franklin County Fiscal Court, August 7th, 2020, voting session. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Squire Sebastian,
Here.
Squire Blackburn,
Present.
Squire Muller,
Present.
Squire Tracy,
Here.
Squire Booth,
Squire Booth?
Present.
Squire Moore,
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. Would you please stand for the pledge? Squire Moore, since you have the flag right there next to you, would you lead us in the pledge?
I'll be glad to. You probably won't see me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Squire Moore. Appreciate it. The first item on the agenda is authorization for approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of July 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Blackburn and Muller. Okay, Blackburn and Muller. Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, next item is authorization to receive the final payment of 2019 excess fees in the amount of $56,801 from the county clerk.
So moved.
Second.
All right, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, next item is authorization to approve the sheriff's quarterly report for the quarter ending June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, the next item is authorization to declare one firearm as surplus from the sheriff's office.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
I'd like to thank the deputy for all his years of service in Franklin County, and I'm a yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, this is a tradition that we've been doing over the years for the deputies and the sheriff when they retire, and we're glad to continue to honor this. And we wish Mr. Parsons all the best and thank him once again for his great service to our community. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution acknowledging and approving of the assumption and the sale of Energize Kentucky LLC, Franklin County's EPAD Program Administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to renew a lease agreement with the Buffalo Trace Properties LLC for the livestock compost facility.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I believe Muller, okay. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
I would like to thank Buffalo Trace again for being such a great partner with us in this endeavor, and I'm a yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and this is a yearly agreement. We do this every year or annually because that's the way they want it done, and we understand and we appreciate them. And Buffalo Trace, you've been a great partner to our community and continue to be a great partner. And this is a great program that we're offering. This is actually one program that many people this past year have come in from around the state to see how we're operating this program. So we really appreciate Buffalo Trace, and we're honored to have this in our community. The next item is authorization to approve appointment of Paul Looney to the Franklin County Planning Commission Board with a term expiring June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
I just want to say that I am appreciative of the fine folks of the First District stepping up and continuing to answer the call to apply for board and commission service. It's a very important extension of our county government, and with that I say yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
I'd like to thank everybody that filled an application out and urge everybody to keep doing that for our boards, because it's an extension of who we are, so I'm a yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
I am glad to see applications being submitted, and I vote yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and I want, it to be said that Mr. Looney, first of all, thank you, Mr. Looney, and you will be a great member of the board. But we also want to say thanks again to Joyce Honaker, who resigned her position, and we wish her all the best, and we appreciate her service on this board. With that, I vote yes. The next item on the agenda is authorization to receive the Treasurer's fourth quarter financial report for 12 months ending June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Squire Muller. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to receive the Treasurer's financial statement for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Squire Booth. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to receive the Treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is payment of bills. Is there a motion to deny any payment or, of any of the claims? Seeing none, let the record show that claims are to be paid. The next item, last item, is authorization to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
I urge everybody to wear their masks so we can get beyond this pandemic, please. Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and before we adjourn, I want to say that we had an employee that is going through extensive rehab. He's a great employee. His name is Arthur Jones. I won't go into the detail, but he is recovering, but he is going through some very extensive process in his recovery. So I ask that all of us in Franklin County keep Arthur Jones, who is a great person, in thoughts and prayers, and his family as they go through this process of recovery. And I'm going to piggyback on you, Squire Muller. That is absolutely the truth. This little piece right here of cloth means we can go back to schools. We don't have to do virtual schools. We can probably have football. Wow, wouldn't that be great? We can have sports in our community. We can do so many things if all we would do is just wear this. For you and for all of us, please wear your mask. God bless. Thank you, and we are adjourned.